Barksdale Air Force Base is just one of those bases that not a lot of people get excited about. Unless, of course, you fly a bunch of drones over it, and then it definitely raises a few eyebrows and piques the blood pressure of a few people. I'll be honest, I'm one of those people. I don't get excited about Barksdale. I've been there numerous times, and I'll be honest, I'm okay if I don't go back. A lot of great people, just not my cup of tea. Now, we're going to talk about what transpired in Barksdale in March of 2026, what Barksdale is, and the greater implications of why this is important, why we should care about it, because it's rather significant. First, Barksdale Air Force Base, it is home to the B-52. This thing has been around for a while, and it's going to be around for a lot longer. By the time the B-52 retires, it's going to be almost 100 years old. Like, just think about that for a second. But this is a nuclear-capable bomber. We're obviously seeing it utilized in Operation Epic Fury, and we've seen it utilized in other conventional modes all the way back to Vietnam, etc. Now, Barksdale is home to Global Strike Command as well. This is the infrastructure. This is the staff. This is the general. This is where Global Strike Command lives. They own two parts of our nuclear triad. They own our bomber fleet as well as our ICBM fleet. Also at Barksdale, you have the U.S. Nuclear Command and Control Communication Systems. What exists there, that's the stuff that links the president to the nukes, the nuclear warning system, the ability to launch, and everything in between. Obviously very highly classified, and it doesn't take a rocket surgeon to figure out that it's pretty important and pretty sensitive. So again, a lot transpires at Barksdale. It is a critical node and it is very strategic. And you would think it's relatively safe just being nestled in beautiful Shreveport, Louisiana. However, I think that is changing. We've talked about this in the newsletter. We've talked about this on the YouTube channel, and I've kind of utilized the term and someone can polish it for me, but we really have seen the democratization of strategic strike. The bombers that exist at Barksdale and bombers that exist inside Global Strike Command, like the B-1, B-52, ICBMs, those are long-range strategic strike type platforms. Sure, they can do some other things, but when we think about those type weapon systems and what it took in order to create those weapon systems, it was a lot of engineering. It was a lot of ingenuity. It was a lot of resources coming together in order to make this happen. No small feat at all, right? Be able to take a B-2 and fly it around the world, unseen, unheard, and strike your enemy and then fly back. No one else can do that. But with drones, that is changing. The ability to conduct a strategic strike is now at the fingertips of a guy sitting in his mom's basement with a 3D printer. Now, obviously, it's a little bit more complex than that, but not far off. We saw the Ukrainians with Operation Spiderweb. I mean, expertly execute a strategic strike with a relatively low-cost weapon system. Now, I don't want to discount the complexity of the mission that they put together, but having trucks driven up next to strategic bases deep inside Russia, and then having drones launched out of the back of the trucks and containers, taking out numerous bombers, command and control planes, cargo planes, etc. That is a strategic strike, and they did it with drones, that they were able just to drive up next to the base. There was no requirement to have a massive program to develop a stealth bomber to be able to fly thousands of miles and back. That wasn't required. But again, these aren't apples to apples, right? Like, obviously there's a lot of capability when you have a B-2 bomber that's able to fly around the world and do what you need to do and get back, versus if you're using drones, that's not something you can just launch whenever you want to. There's a lot of planning that goes into it. Nonetheless, I think you probably get the point I'm trying to make here. If not, scream into your keyboard and let me know in the comment section. But now what we saw at Barksdale was something I think along those lines, or it allows you to really easily visualize the threat that now exists to all our bases. We have seen with Operation Epic Fury, the videos, the pictures coming out of Prince Sultan Air Base around that region to begin with. Relatively low-cost drones getting through advanced air defense networks that are able to take out an E-3 AWACS, to take out multiple KC-135 aircraft. You're doing that with a relatively low-cost weapon system, really blooding the nose of your adversary. Now, this incursions into Barksdale Air Force Base, this wasn't just your hobbyist drone. So these drones were anywhere from 12 to 15, according to reports, that overflew the flight line where the bombers sit. They flew in close formation, and then they spread out and did various maneuvers. They appear to be jam resistant, according to reports. And I would like you to think, it's cool if you have a drone. I don't have a drone, but I would like a drone. How many people own 12 to 15 drones? Probably no one, right? The way these drones were maneuvering, according to reports, the fact they were jam resistant, the fact that it was so brazen to be overflying the flight line, flying inside the perimeter of the base, makes you believe that this had to be a state actor, someone with nefarious intent, trying to collect data, trying to collect information, maybe doing planning. Who knows, right? The point is, you had someone who was not supposed to be there that was able to get inside your perimeter very easily. And they were able to do it with relatively impunity. You couldn't do anything about it. We have seen the air defense networks in the Middle East. You don't think air defense networks, for the most part, up inside your bases or near your bases inside the United States. So the force protection laydown, that mentality, I am sure, is changing for the Air Force, for the Army, for the Department of War, all of the above. Very complex problem set of how you defeat this emerging threat that is emerging very rapidly. This is not a surprise. This is nothing new. We actually had a Chinese national that on November 30th of 2024, he overflew Vandenberg Air Force Base during a Falcon 9 launch, trying to photograph things. And the guy took off. He was trying to get out of the country and he got picked up by the FBI. It was a joint effort between FBI and the Air Force Office of Special Investigation that they were able to arrest this Chinese national who flew this drone over the base. Now, when we look at the Barksdale incident, there could be a number of reasons. As I alluded to, maybe they're trying to collect information. Maybe it's trying to be a nuisance, right? There's trying to disrupt operations for supporting Operation Epic Fury. These are all things. It is just a kind of a stepping stone. And you can see where, again, if you're allowing or if you have no ability to stop someone from overflying your base, your airspace, you've lost air superiority, right? That's a little bit dramatic of a statement there. But these drones, again, flying in formation, resistance to jamming, this is a problem set. Now, there's a lot of smart people and companies out there that are working to come up with solutions to do it. But nonetheless, it just kind of shows you that this timeline must move forward because these things were not kinetic. Had they had a kinetic capability, this is a completely different story. What is sensitive on the flight line that you'd be doing this? And honestly, with a small drone, when you're looking at a Falcon 9 launch, I'll be honest, I don't know really what information is going to be useful that you get out of it. I spent a lot of time on flight lines. It's not like you're just holding up classified information. You can determine pattern of life. You can determine operations and things like that. A lot of that stuff is not too sensitive, I guess, if you're able to aggregate it over time, but you're not getting the juicy intel. Disrupting things, harassing, obviously that's problematic. If you're able to threaten with kinematic things, maybe there are some sensors which are able to absorb various electrons if you're trying to gather that information. But if you're doing that, you definitely don't want to be seen. This is kind of like an overt excursion into the base there, which does change the dynamic a little bit. You're saying, hey, I'm here and there's nothing you can do about it is a significant thing. So when it comes down to it, again, we have to learn the lessons that we've seen transpire in Ukraine. We've now seen transpire in the Middle East. The battlefield is changing. The threat environment changes. It always does. This is something that's new. I will say the really new wrinkle to this one, I think, is the fact now that this something stateside, the bases have never really had to worry about. You've had to worry about threats from people breaching the fence, running the gate, maybe insider threat. I would say, for lack of a better phrase, your more traditional threats. This is something new. You can now have a base situated in the middle of America that is now at risk of being attacked from low cost, off the shelf, more or less commercial grade drones or whatever you want to think of that you didn't have to worry about. Again, that kind of democratization of strategic strike. It now lives at your doorstep. You're not having to wait years to develop a program that's able to reach out and touch an adversary. You can more or less do this tomorrow with the right people and the right equipment that you can get off the shelf or off the internet. And again, a little bit more complex than that, but hopefully you see the point I'm trying to make with that there. I'd be curious to get your thoughts, and I'll see you next time.